this, bringing us all together.
I love it. So I'm Josh, and that's my editor, Allison.
Hi. Hello. I did see on your website, I saw your favorite movie choices. I really approved. Thank you very much for sharing them with us.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad someone's looking at them.
Yes, Josh, you use Letterboxd, don't you?
Yeah,
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've just been introduced to it. I had a whole thing last year. I've been doing for the last couple of years 52 documentaries in 52 weeks.
Wow.
And I've done it the last couple of years, and I was just doing it on Microsoft To Do, and just listing them. And then last year there was some weird thing, and all of them just deleted when I was at 49. And I panicked, and I tried to recover them all and everything. And then my friend introduced me to Letterboxd, and I absolutely love it. It's such a slick system, and it all just looks beautiful. And I get to list my favorite movies, which is a bit of pressure, but I'm getting used to it. But that's how I first discovered your review, actually. I was like, has anyone seen it yet? I hadn't known if anyone had seen Ruby, and I saw it on there because I think it came up a day or two before the actual movie came out, and I shared it with Raechelle and was like, someone's seen it. Oh my God, it's real.
That's
Great,
awesome. I love that. So obviously me and Allison both really enjoyed all 4 of the movies. Can you tell me how you became entangled in the twisty world of VC Andrews?
Well, I had the audition come through from my representation, and they're aware that Karina and I are twins, and they offered for us to have a discussion if we wanted to put something down for it. And we were familiar with VC Andrews I had auditioned for the Petals in the Wind production that Lifetime did years ago, and had watched Flowers in the Attic as research and all of that. So I was very familiar with the world, but I'd actually never heard of Ruby. So we thought, we get to work together. Why not? We may as well put something down.
And it was the first sort of script that we found for twins that came about that didn't, because we love working together. We absolutely do. But, you've got to be particular about it, because you don't want to repeat the same sort of trope and everything. And this was just it was really fun, because it wasn't, they have little parent trap moments where they switch and things like that. But otherwise, I think being able to play such opposing characters as identical twins was such a challenge, and was really exciting to tackle. And the material was all there for you, so we just devoured it.
Yeah, I like that you guys are, like you said, pretty much like polar opposites. I think the dynamic between the twins was important to get right, and I think you guys definitely both nailed it. What was it like getting to work? Oh, yeah, of course. What was it like getting to work together on such a big project, and how appealing was it to work together, as sisters?
Well, to work together, the last couple of projects that Karina and I on screen have been able to collaborate on have been short films. So obviously a lot smaller shoot and all of that. But this production gave us such a lengthy time to really unpack this story individually, but also together, which is such a rare experience for any actor, let alone someone who's working with their twin. And I really enjoyed it to be able to have someone who could participate in the bubble of filmmaking that usually is quite an isolating experience, to share that and to watch Karina shine all day, every day on set was just so much fun. I just enjoyed it so much.
Raechelle and I naturally just have a shorthand together, and we help each other audition frequently. Like pretty much every audition that we get, usually when we're in the same country, but sometimes when you're not in the same country, technology helps. But yeah, we love working together, and this project was really special because we found out that we booked the job quite in advance, and so we had a lot of time to work on the project together and develop it prior to starting Ruby. And then due to COVID as well, we also had an extended break in between, and that would be stressful on any individual actor. But to be able to have someone like Raechelle to consistently, fill that unknown time frame that everyone was dealing with last year, and be able to still work together and show up and help each other with certain scenes that we had coming up or whatnot, we were able to just really feel prepared. And then once it came to us being on set, we could just look each other in the eye and just know, like, you're having a good day, you're having a bad day, what can I do? And yeah, we that shorthand really paid off. I think we just get it. We get each other and we know how each other works best, and we can seesaw one another and yeah, really make each other, give each other the time to shine, which is really lovely.
Yeah, I think well, mainly in the first three, because obviously obviously Karina's not in the fourth one, but you definitely notice the dynamic a lot. It really comes through, and you guys yeah, you guys really play off of each other well, I think.
Thanks.
Speaking of the pandemic, obviously I had a question about that. How much did the pandemic actually affect your filming? And do you know if there's still any plans to make a fifth movie?
Well, so each film took 3 weeks to make. We were able to get through the first film, and then we had a 2-week production break before starting the second, and we got 1 week into our 3 weeks before we got shut down. And because we were in Victoria on Vancouver Island, we were actually one of the last productions in Canada still going at that stage, because the island really didn't have many cases. But, you know, the time came when everyone had to pack up shop and go home. And we ended up having a 4-month break between that week of filming and when we were able to pick back up. So it's quite interesting when we watch back on the film, and obviously you don't shoot in order. So there'll be scenes where, you know, you walk into one room and we shot that pre-COVID, but when your character walks out of it, you shot it post-COVID. So it's quite interesting to see it. And everyone was a bit interested to see if you were going to notice. But I think that we had such a dedicated team, and our director, David, was able to stitch the two together so perfectly that it was seamless in the end. So I think that for the length of the shoot, it definitely impacted it, but the quality of it, I don't think it did at all. We were very lucky to have such a dedicated team who really made sure that we kept up the same caliber of work that we started with, which I'm very grateful for.
And I think you, Raechelle, had the added benefit of like particular scenes. I remember David, when we got back from COVID and we were in pre-production, he was able to show you a particular scene that he knew he wanted to like transition into the shot we were doing the next day or whatnot. And so you had that benefit almost of being able to visualize it. You know, usually you're moving so quickly, you definitely don't have time for playback, and neither Raechelle and I are really interested in playback on set. And whereas you kind of got that benefit of seeing the picture in your mind and being able to collaborate with whatever David was working with. So that was beautiful. But also I think in terms of it affecting anything, I think it was, for me personally, the first time I was back on set, it was more just the anxiety of being around people. Because we'd been alone for 4 months. You know, here in Australia, we essentially I had quarantine when I came back, but then, you know, we were essentially on intermittent lockdowns and limited capacity of people's in rooms and things. And obviously the production respected all of that when you came back, but I hadn't been around more than, I think, 4 people in a space in a really long time. And as you know, sets are quite busy and, you know, chaotic, and also just your capacity for energy throughout a day has been reduced over that amount of time. And so the first week was probably just like that anxiety of realizing that, like, I'm safe, but I'm surrounded by people and this is new again. And also just remembering my Giselle isms was a challenge, and trusting that it was there and not having to recreate anything, because that's never going to be your best work, but just trusting in it. Raechelle and I would just look at each other and be like, I don't know what I did there. Was I doing the right thing? And we would be like, yeah, you got it. It's in you. You don't have to think about it. So, you know, that mental gymnastics was quite a challenge, but, you know, we had the most supportive production and cast and crew. So, you know, but in no time we were back into our old rhythms.
Karina was quite concerned that she'd lost Giselle, but she never did. In terms of the 5th movie, I'm actually not sure. I mean, as you're aware, with the films, with the books, it's an entirely different story. It's the prequel. So Ruby and Giselle wouldn't be in it, and if they were, they'd be very, very little. Some of my best work, I'm sure. I'm actually not sure what their plans are with the 5th film. I mean, with the success of these first 4, perhaps, but unfortunately, I am not privy to that information.
Yeah.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, that sounds like it was really challenging though. To I guess get back in the mindset of the characters, but I think I honestly I didn't notice anything. Like you said, a 4-month break, I didn't really notice. It didn't reflect the work at all, I don't think.
Oh.
So I guess the rest is pretty much spoilers, the questions that I have. So who is the better kisser, Sam or Ty? And are each of you Team Paul or Team Beau? Who is the better fit for Ruby?
Oh, I mean, in all honesty, both Ty and Sam were such wonderful scene partners, not just in the romantic sense and the intimate scenes, but just on a day-to-day basis as creatives. They're very supportive and very collaborative. And I think when scenes like that come up, where it is a much more intimate nature, it's all about communication and consent and trust. And they were both so on board with that. So that makes, it's an interesting thing. When you kiss another actor, it does not feel like a kiss in real life. You get no tummy tingles from those experiences. It's all acting, and it all just feels like choreography. But I think the quote enjoyable part of it is to know that you feel safe. And I felt safe with both of them. I couldn't really pick the two apart. However, in terms of Team Paul or Team Beau, it's so hard because I really did have to go along that roller coaster with Ruby, and I leapt from one to the other. And, you know, one is very taboo and the other one is kind of taboo because there's adultery involved and all of that. But I, at different parts of filming, was on both teams at different times. I think the interesting thing about their relationship is that Paul is much more of a puppy love type of relationship that they're trying to hold on to, that there's a natural chemistry there, but Beau is much more of a passionate, mature love. And we tried to distinguish the two, which I felt quite comfortable with. But I think that Ruby ended up with the right person. It took her some hard tragedies to get there, but she ended up with the right person, I think.
I'm going to throw it out there. I reckon Team Paul. Why not? Be controversial.
He's young love.
They didn't know. It's not their fault. I'm gonna be Team Paul. Why not?
Okay.
Technically, Paul, I think, was more in love with her than she was in love with him. But yeah. Beau, I feel like it was more equal. You know, the relationship.
I agree.
In All That Glitters, Giselle goes into a coma, and Raechelle, you get to play a whole different side to Ruby than we see in any of the other movies.
Yes.
How much fun was it to fill your sister's shoes and to emulate Giselle?
It was absolutely terrifying. I think the most fun part about it was the costumes. We all know Giselle has the best looks. So it was so fun to just feel like an absolute doll in whatever they put me in. And I just was envious that Karina got to do that every single day. But in terms of playing Giselle, I think any time that you step into shoes that have already been worn, it's an intimidating thing because you cannot build your own character. You're emulating what someone else has done, and there's always fear that it's going to be a caricature. And Karina built this person who is so heightened and yet so grounded at the same time, and it's such a fine balance. And she really did such specific work in order to get there that I didn't want to let her down. I felt a little bit embarrassed in front of the crew because they were all aware that I was pretending to be. It just was a bit odd, but also Giselle is such an extroverted energy, and that's very different to Ruby. And I've gotten quite comfortable in Ruby's more introverted nature, which is more similar to my own. And our poor sound team had to figure out ways to move my mic around because every time I played Giselle, they could hear my heart beating because it was beating so loud. I was so nervous every time. She does have the best lines, which is really fun to read. But the second you have one of those sassy monologues to do, it's enough to keep you up at night.
Those monologues are the best. Speaking of Giselle, though she has a tragic ending, I loved her biting attitude and how she's always doing everything in her power to undermine Ruby. Karina, what appealed to you most about this role? And do you think Giselle ever found love for her sister?
You know, the way in which Giselle goes about things is, you know, me, Karina, I find a little bit questionable. Obviously, it's quite vicious, and I think, yeah, it's non-conventional is one way to say. But I really admired how outspoken Giselle was written. I think for a woman of her time, you know, usually they're written quite meek or submissive. And, you know, whenever you get to play in that era, you know, you're playing a certain woman who was being brought up to represent something in society. And Giselle has had that, but she has so much spunk that there's no way you could make her submissive. There is no way Giselle could be meek. And that was such an honor to be able to get those monologues, and they're so juicy and fun, and they have such a roller coaster that she takes you on, and she just wants you to kind of almost watch her take you on that roller coaster. So that was really lovely. What was the second part of your question? I'm sorry.
Good question. Do you think she ever found love for her sister?
Right. I think
I'm listening.
I'm listening. Oh. I mean, there are sneaky moments where I think Giselle realizes that the connection is undeniable between the two of them. And probably if she didn't care so much about what everyone else thinks, and if she wasn't so fragile and worried that she would crack publicly, I think that she probably could find a closer relationship with Ruby. And there were moments where that shines through in the letters that she sends her at the end of Pearl. And even, you know, she gives hints that she's missed her, and she tries to show off the life that she has back home without Ruby when she comes back in All That Glitters. But I think that there is a little bit of sadness probably that she's having to relay this information and not experience it together, because finally she has a partner in this crazy family and the society life, and someone who she can share that with. So I think that there is, but again, I think she's too vulnerable to be able to publicly declare that, and probably not for the best for her fate, but yeah.
Loved her in private, it's okay. Do you think that Hidden Jewel truly serves as a happy ending for the series? Is the curse truly broken, or do Ruby and her family continue to be haunted by the ghosts of their past?
I think that of a family that deals with such a spiritual belief ingrained in their bones, I think that there's always going to be a hint of mysticism in their life. I don't know if I think probably the Paul curse is broken. However, I think that there is some spirit world that does still follow their family. So I think where we leave them is as happy as they can be. I think that, but they also seem to have their eyes open, like particularly Pearl, that this stuff is real, this is a part of life, and you can have both science and faith. So I think moving forward with an acceptance of that dichotomy, living fully, is probably what keeps them as happy as they are.
I love that. That was a really good answer.
Oh, thank you.
Let's see what else I got. All four films have fun moments and exciting theatrical dialogue. Did you have any favorite moments, lines, or memories that you would like to share?
Giselle, there's too many to choose, honestly. I think in Ruby, my favorite line was when she comes back over from the Mardi Gras, and Ruby just wants to talk to her because it's their first intimate moment together, and she's hungover and can't be bothered. She just wants to go to bed, and she asks if it was fun, I think it was, and Giselle responds, well, there weren't any banjos and washboards, so I doubt you would have liked it. I just love, like, it just gives you a complete idea of what Giselle thinks that this thing has come from, and that's her world. And I just think it encapsulates that so well. And then for All That Glitters, my favorite line was walking out of Cypress Woods after organizing Daphne's estate, and she starts talking to Ty and says, I know you're not the brightest bulb in the chandelier, but you always find new ways of proving it. It just gives that little insight into how dark their relationship is behind the scenes. So fun.
I think all of my favorite lines really come from Giselle. I think the line that made me giggle the most with Ruby would be in Pearl in the Mist, where Ruby discovers that Giselle can walk and she's going to reveal it on Christmas. And Ruby says, leave it to you to outshine Jesus on his birthday. And I thought that was a very good remark from Ruby. I think she found some spunk. But then Giselle follows up with, you're the one who always wants to be on the cross, Rubes. And I just was like, oh, she got her again. But I think honestly,
double stab.
Yeah. He's always got something better cooking. It's just funny.
Yeah.
But then in All That Glitters, our first day of shooting for All That Glitters, we shot Daphne's funeral, and the reveal of Giselle being with Beau was such a big moment for Ruby. But Karina and I had run lines for those scenes, and she's so funny in that scene of just how audacious she is with this possession of Beau, that Karina was making me giggle so much. And when we were rehearsing, so whenever we're on camera, I don't know if I can't remember actually if they cut to me, but I do a lot of looking away acting, because I could not look at her when she said her lines, because she was making me laugh because she was so good at what she did. It was really fun.
I love that. Oh my god. So I guess I really only have one more question. Do you each have a favorite film in the series, and do you have any other takeaways for the audience? Any like projects you want to plug or anything like that?
I have to say my favorite film, I thought going into it, having read the script, I thought Ruby would be my favorite. It's my favorite book. So I thought, it being an origin story of Ruby, I thought that would be my favorite. But when I watched the films back, I have to say Pearl in the Mist really shone. It was so captivating to me, and I thought the pacing was really well done. I think the adaptation of the script from novel to screen was so well done. And so I think that was probably my favorite in terms of character development. I think Ruby really finds her voice in that one. And it was really, really fun to watch. Karina?
I think I'd have to agree, but I think like coming back from COVID, I think that everyone was just so much more like, not that we weren't invested, but I think that everyone just had this attitude of, like, we're so grateful to be back at work. And, David, our director, it was his network directorial debut, and it really shows because every frame is just so passionate, and like Raechelle said, it glows. And personally as well, like, it was just a real big career milestone to have, not only, do I have the pleasure of sharing each of my scenes with Raechelle, which is so rare, but also, sets can be quite a male-dominated environment, and we had that storyline based essentially at an all-girls school, and so there were just tons of girls around all the time, so many different strengths of female characters in every scene that Ruby encounters and that we encounter, and just to be able to have a little posse as well was really quite fun, and the girls that I had were amazing. And it was a real interesting career milestone, because you just don't find it that often, and I think we really really got to play. And I think it shows. I think it's very fun, and like Ruby, it's so exciting to be able to establish this story. But there's so much information. You're bringing so many worlds, and by the time we get into Pearl, I think we've hit the ground running, and it shows.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think the second and the third one were my favorites, because that's where like all the crazy like bombshell stuff starts happening. And yeah, the Ruby lays the groundwork, and then the next one, you know, everything starts to really come together in a satisfying way, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the great thing about the second and third films are that they then become a character piece, as opposed to this the two worlds which we set up in Ruby, but in Pearl and All That Glitters, it really is about these characters that we've grown to be so invested in. And for me personally, shooting All That Glitters was so interesting because the way the shoot fell, I spent half of the schedule with Ty and half of the schedule with Sam, who plays Paul. And that was such a rich experience. Rather than having the boys come in for one or two scenes, we really got to spend
the wind blew my door.
Oh,
It's okay.
we got to spend a really lengthy amount of time together and really flesh out these characters, and I think that reflects in the films, because they are then character pieces, which is really exciting. But in terms of, was your question about to share with the audience our what was it, sorry?
Future things that you like, projects and stuff.
Yeah, like any projects or anything you wanna plug or you know, mention for people to be looking out for, anything like that.
Well, I mean, Karina and I are filmmakers, so we've always got things in development. We have a few things in development at the moment, which we can't really go into right now, but things will be on the way.
Very exciting. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Allison?
This is really out of order because I wanted to say it before, but I didn't want to break the flow.
Yeah.
But when you were reading, I assume you read the books before and not just cold read the script. But as you were at least reading the books, were you surprised that Giselle actually died? Because I was not expecting that at all.
Well, I did read the books. I did read the books ahead of time, so I knew. However, Karina did not, because for her own reason. You can go into that.
Yeah, essentially, you know, the stories are told from Ruby's perspective, and I think it's responsible as an actor to to make sure that you're completely on your character's side. And you know, whenever you're playing an antagonist, that's a challenge. And I didn't want to have any of Ruby's instincts or opinions, essentially, on Giselle's actions to influence any decision I made as an actor. So I didn't. But yes, I wasn't surprised that she died. I think I was surprised how she died. I think I expected it to be this. I mean, you know, I don't know why I was expecting it, because most of the character deaths sort of happen off screen anyway within the VC Andrews Ruby characters. But I think the idea that it was encephalitis, this mosquito, this thing, I was just like, I genuinely, throughout the entire time of filming that film, I would just, because I would be in a coma and Ty would be there, you know, either on the phone or doing something, and I was just like, you did this to me. There is no way you came up with this plan and did not do this to me. Like, I'm sure that Beau is behind Giselle's death. Like, it completely facilitates his entire desire. Like, I'm sure of it.
But a really interesting thing, while the films were screening, Karina and I tried to participate on Twitter, and I was so happy to see, but also kind of surprised to see that so many people were the same as you, Allison, that not many people thought that she was going to die. People kept saying, wait till Giselle comes back and he's got this, and so many so many people wanted her to live. And even when we screened Hidden Jewel, there were a lot of people that were like, she was a terrible human being, but I'm really missing seeing Giselle on my screen. And I was like, that's a testament to Karina's work. And it's true, whenever Giselle's not on screen, you miss her. And so for her to not come back, I think it was a real shock for people, which is a good thing, but you know, not so much for Giselle.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with us today. It was really, really great, and I can't wait to post it.
Oh,
no worries. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thanks so much for your support with the films, and hopefully we can chat again soon.
Yeah, of course.
Sounds great. I would love that.
Yeah. Okay, have a great day.
Thanks, Alison.
Thank you.
Thank you
Have a
so
great
much.
one.
Bye.
Bye.